I'd like to have your attention in the media center and up in the press box. We'll start today's post-race media availability for Can-Am Duel number 2 at Daytona. We're joined by our runner-up finisher, Kevin Harvick, driver of the number 4 Jimmy John's Ford for Stewart-Haas Racing. Kevin, what did you learn tonight that you're going to be able to apply on Sunday in the Great American Race?
Yeah, we got to make our car handle better. I just, wasn't very comfortable to pull on the wheel like I needed to, to be aggressive in making moves and blocking and all the things I needed. And luckily, I had a fast car, to kind of crutch that part of it and a teammate behind me. So we definitely have a little bit of work to do on the handling side of it. And I think if we can find a better balance between the speed and the handling of the car, I think we'll be in good shape. But, I think the race in general was good for us. And I knew I was going to have to make 2 moves in order to win the race. And it just kind of depended on how everything formed back up after, I got by Denny. And the 14 and 21 got side by side back there and weren't able to form up enough energy to push up beside the 9. So made one, and the second one didn't quite get to finish it off, but still a good day.
Okay, we'll open up the floor for questions. If you have a question for Kevin, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone to you. We'll start with Jenna.
Jennifer, Kevin, I know you said you didn't love the handling of your car, but from a speed standpoint, the Fords seem really strong. They swept all 4 plate races last year. Is it looking like Ford maybe has the best package so far?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, think that we have the fastest cars down here from a manufacturer standpoint, and that's definitely been the case over the last few years. And I think as you like you said, look at the previous results and Brad doing so well, and obviously, the Penske guys have done well in both races they've run this week, and Kurt winning the 500 last year for us, and so we led a lot of laps in this one last year and crashed in the final stage and didn't put the day together. So we'll have the speed. It's just a matter of getting the handling right and connecting all the dots and seeing how it all falls in the end. But I think we'll be in good shape.
Additional questions for Kevin Harvick. We'll go to Holly Kane and then go to Dustin.
Holly Kane, the NASCAR Wire Service. Kevin, did the race play out tonight kind of like what you would have expected things to be on
It was
track?
much more, like in my mind what I expected. I was a lot more patient tonight than on what I was in the Clash. At the beginning of the race, I didn't feel like the 9 was handling very well, and I was kind of urgent. I felt some urgency to get around him, and ultimately he wound up winning the race. So I don't know if they made their car better or what they did, but I think we saw a little bit more passing in our race than in the first race, and I didn't see anybody just spin out like we saw in the first race. But it was the cars they're a handful. We haven't had a lot of practice, a lot of new rules, a lot of things happening, and with the lack of practice, nobody's had a chance to work on these cars at all, just because practice was so condensed into qualifying and filling out what you had, and by that time you didn't have a very big group to go practice in. So Friday and Saturday will be important to get our cars handling better.
We'll go next to Dustin, then up to the press box.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Kevin, how have you seen the progression of Ryan, Blaney, and Chase in regards to plate racing? Is there such thing as a typical progression for a young driver? I know everybody's different. Or are they doing? I know they're having advantage of some good equipment, but are they growing at a certain level, or is as much the benefit of the car?
That's the one thing you say, good equipment. There's a lot of guys that have good equipment when they come in, and there's just sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. For me, I crashed a lot when I first started. Those guys have picked up on it pretty well. So I think from the time that Ryan started, he's been good on the super speedways and done a good job. But those guys are different because they have such a knack for and have watched so many of these races, and it's not like they were racing on a computer or came through a different form of racing or whatever the case may be. Those guys had dads that were pretty darn good in what they were doing and heard the lingo and heard the talk and watched the action on the racetrack, and they've seen they've seen as much of the progression of how all this works as I have. And, you know, they may not have been in the car, but they've watched and learned. And you know, I don't think that the progression hasn't been very good because they started good. So, you know, I think Chase won this race last year, right? Yeah. So they're doing fine.
We'll go upstairs to the press box for a question.
Bruce Martin with Speed Sport Magazine. Kevin, how twitchy does the rear of this car feel? Because in the first race, all the crashes appeared to be started when another driver simply took the air off the rear of the car in front of him.
I mean, mine didn't seem as light as those guys were, but there were several instances where it definitely got my attention, you know, with how light the back of the car was. So, like I say, we have to work on our car because you're constantly just chasing the car and mostly the back, and can't pull on the wheel like you need to when you get the runs and be able to do the things that you need to do to be aggressive, to make passes and blocks.
Close it out for Kevin here with Jordan.
You get no mic. Just glad Jenna's not the only one asking questions all day.
Jordan Bianchi, SB Nation. This is for Kevin. Kevin, this is kind of a general question, but when you go to a backup car in a restrictor plate race, is there any concern or carryover, or you know that piece of equipment is as good as your primary?
Yeah, I mean, I would say half of them will probably choose their Clash car that, you know, if they were in the Clash that they've already raced, if it wasn't torn up bad. But, you know, the engineering and the time that is put into all these cars, and everybody knows that you have to go into these qualifying races and race, in my opinion, because, you know, if you're going to give up, if you finished outside the top 10, you gave up 10 points to the guy who won already. And, you know, that hole just keeps getting bigger if you don't collect points, and you can't just go right around. That's what the new point system and stage racing has done, and that's the way we should race. That's the way we've all raced from the very beginning, from late model cars and in short races. And you know, you can go out and, you know, Alex Bowman didn't learn anything today, in my opinion. I mean, they'll go out and practice, and you know, riding around starting on a pole is great, but not knowing what your car is going to do is a complete waste of time, in my opinion.
Go to Bob.
Bob Parker, ESPN. Kevin, will people be more brave, you know, the last 10, 20 laps of the
Heck yeah,
Daytona
man.
500?
It's the Daytona 500. Everybody's here to win it, so if you back her in the fence going for the lead, so be it this week.
Well, Kevin, thanks for joining us, and good luck on Sunday in the Daytona 500. We are now joined by our third-place finisher in tonight's race. We have Erik Jones, driver of the number 20 DeWalt Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. Erik, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Kevin. What did you learn about your car tonight that'll get you ready for Sunday's Great American Race?
Oh, man. I don't know. Where do I start? You know, I think we fought some similar issues in the Clash of what we had tonight. You know, starting the race off, obviously got spun out there early. Just a bad aero situation. You know, you kind of get stuck in a guy's wake, and you can't really do much about it. And, you know, fortunately, we were able to fight back from that, even with some damage, and get a good finish out of this. But still was able to learn a ton. Obviously, having to race from the back, I felt like we really got ourselves in a lot of different positions aero-wise. So, you know, just really fought a lot of similar issues that we did in the Clash, a lot of tight on exit. So we've definitely got some work to do for Sunday, you know, to get where I feel like I'm comfortable and happy with the car. But, you know, it's good to really feel like we learned something tonight.
Okay, we'll open the floor up for questions. If you have a question for Erik, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone to you. Questions here in the deadline room. We'll go to Bob.
Bob Parker, ESPN. Did it feel any different driving a Gibbs car versus a Furniture Row car, and just how much more comfortable are you out there today than a year ago?
You know, it's hard to tell if there's a difference or not, at least at this point in the year. I mean, especially with the rules change here, it's made everything drive a ton different than what I've ever drove on a super speedway. So just really kind of relearning the whole super speedway package and what we have for this weekend. Sorry, I forgot the second part of your question. Oh, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm way more comfortable. I feel like last year coming into this race, you know, I felt like I was out there kind of to earn guys' respect, and still am doing that and wanting to have these guys' respect. But you definitely feel like you can race more. You know, I feel like I have a much better idea of what these cars are situationally capable of in different positions, and what you need to do to kind of pick up some positions in the draft, and kind of how these lines roll. So felt like I just had a better idea of how things were going to play out throughout the race, and especially even after the Clash Sunday, I felt like it just kind of got me reacquainted with some super speedway racing and the way it works in these Cup cars. So I was able to learn a lot from that, and I think that that comfortability feeling is going to carry throughout the year. I think even going into Atlanta, I can remember being nervous in Daytona about Atlanta, and now I'm looking forward to it. I know what to expect and feel like I have a good idea of how we're going to be handling wise when we get there.
We'll go to Mike and then to George.
Mike Hembry, USA Today. Several drivers have talked about giving up speed for handling or the opposite. Are you looking for a happy medium there, or do you want one more than the other?
I mean, yeah, you want as a driver, you want both, right? So it is a happy medium, but we've definitely got the speed. I don't think the speed's an issue at all for us. I think it was just a track position thing really for us tonight to not have a shot at the win. So we do need to get some drivability in it. I mean, it's going to be a happy medium. We did some things to take what we thought would take some speed out of it for tonight. What we can do with the impound race, there's not a whole lot, but it really didn't slow us down much. I thought we had plenty of speed and gained a little bit of drivability, so it's going to be more kind of down that road of trying to get more drivability in the car and just continue to get it better.
George?
Yeah, back here, Erik. George Diaz with the Orlando Sentinel. I saw on Twitter that over the radio you said you guys are going to have to take some big swings on Sunday. Can you elaborate the thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I just think we're not, where we need to be handling-wise for Sunday. I know as cool as it was tonight, handling was going to be the best it's going to be the rest of the weekend. It's going to be a solid probably 20 degrees hotter on Sunday, and the way it deteriorated throughout the race, I knew there was no way, the Daytona 500 is 140 laps longer, so it's just going to get worse and worse. The more rubber that gets built up, so just the issues that we have, they're just going to be, exaggerated more and more on Sunday, and really don't think we're in a spot right now to be comfortable enough to make moves that we're going to have to make on Sunday to put ourselves in position to win.
Additional questions for Erik? Go to Holly.
Holly Kane, the NASCAR Wire Service. Could you just talk real quickly about the confidence that you had? I mean, it was really, to come back from having the incident and then finish third in the race is a pretty big deal. Could you talk about what that did for you?
Yeah, I mean that's a big confidence boost. I would say super speedway racing is not high on my list of racing styles that I'm good at. It's just something I haven't done a lot, so it's something I'm trying to improve on consistently every time I get the chance to do it. And tonight I just felt like it was a solid race for us. I felt like personally for me, I was able to learn a lot, kind of about how, like I said, the lines move and situations that you get in. I talked to Denny a little bit before the race actually, and he was able to kind of enlighten me on some different things that happen in these races, and actually that helped quite a bit, and really thought a lot of the things we talked about paid off tonight.
Well, Erik, congratulations on the finish tonight, and good luck on Sunday in the Daytona 500.
Thank you.